We are a Charlotte 49ers CBI Championship pregame show.
Let's go.
Because that game goes off at 5 o'clock. Here to break down the 49ers versus the Colonels. I believe it is the Eastern Kentucky Colonels. I believe I have that right. From CBS Sports and the Cover 3 podcast, which talks football, but now we're going to make him talk basketball. And I just found out we're going to make him talk golf, too, because golf is being played. It's Wednesday. I wasn't even expecting golf. It's Chip Patterson. Follow him on Twitter at Chip_Patterson. What's up, man?
I mean, really, shout out to Hercules Tires. I think Hercules Tires is sponsoring the CBI. Okay. I think Hercules Tires was also the title sponsor for, no joke, 4 to 5 mid-major conference tournaments. Like, of the 32, conference tournaments that take place during championship week, we're of course used to our New York Life.
Right.
We're used to, T-Mobile is going to be getting in there somewhere. Hercules Tires, they took the approach of, we're going to buy up all the small mid-majors and we're going to get in on the CBI, which is, just I think a really good way to flood the market. And I mean, here I am talking about Hercules Tires on an unprecedented statewide platform here in the state of North Carolina. Shout out to the 49ers. Conference USA having a pretty good postseason. You got FAU in the Sweet 16.
Stop.
You had North Texas and UAB made runs in the NIT, and Charlotte also making a deep run in the CBI. The Cayusa is doing all right here in the postseason.
I will say, I wouldn't want to do the budgeting for those smaller tournaments, but to me, they fit in the same place as like bowl games of like who are you hurting? And nobody has to watch these things. And I remember when ECU made their run and it ended up being like a crazy final game of the championship. And like probably more people watched ECU basketball on TV than ever for that game. And it's like, who is it hurting to have these? If the money works, like, have more basketball tournaments.
Did y'all talk about that the CBI is paid programming too?
No, they're
you have to pay to get in. It's not an invitation.
Well, it's still an invitation. You just
no. How bad do you want it? You come forward.
Look, my
application fee. The NIT is still an invitation. NIT is going to be able to extend the invite, carry some of the expenses. CBI is like, look, I mean, we will bring the refs. Okay, if you can get yourselves here, and if you
hold on. Does CBI stand for invitational? Is it college basketball invitational?
College basketball invitational.
You got to take that out your name then. I'm gonna get that guy. We'll talk about him later. The guy who's suing Buffalo Wild Wings because he says the boneless wings aren't wings. Like, it's not an invitational if it's pay to play. Now, and again, I said disclaimer. I'm all about these tournaments if the money works. I didn't necessarily need to know how the money was working. I didn't need to know that these teams were planning to get in.
So the reason that I got into this was I was really worried that Pistol Pete's record was going to get taken down by them paying. Like, even though they had a losing record, they weren't going to go to the NIT. I thought that they were going to pay to get into a tournament to go get one more game so that Pistol Pete's scoring record would get taken down. And just great news for Broughton graduates everywhere.
Broughton fans, yes.
Pistol Pete Maravich, who, by the way, set the scoring record in 83 games.
I mean, with no three-point line.
44 with no three-point line.
The scoring record should be like minimum number of games and then average points per game, because my man Pete was out here putting up 44 a game. Just ridiculous numbers. He might be one of the most all-time like athletes that we don't have enough YouTube footage of. Like, there's some, but like, I mean, I would watch a full game of him just scoring like 50. I mean, if you're averaging 44 points in a college game, that means you're regularly scoring over 44 points, right? I would just love to. I would watch a game to see him put up 50 just in the normal course of the game. Anyway, Chip Patterson here joining us. All right, now I need some help. You do obviously podcasting. You do hits on CBS HQ. You host on CBS HQ. You've done sports radio hosting. How bad have I aired in doing like the rundown and getting this far? And I'm also, bear in mind, I'm filling in for Adam Gold, so I'm trying to do right by the show, right? I hit on the World Baseball Classic, as he would have. Did not even mention that the World Golf Championship Dell match play is going on right now until somebody tweeted at me to let me know that Chapel Hill's Ben Griffin is 2-up on Terrell Hatton in their sort of round-robin play. Is this a bad faux pas on my part, or can I be excused for that?
Yeah, you can be excused because Ben Griffin might be 2 up on Terrell Hatton the coward, but I am out on the Dell match play as like being a great point within
Okay,
the
good.
off calendar. I actually, again, like I could be wrong about this, but I believe that as we start to move forward into the future of the PGA Tour, the elevated events, and the way that the schedule is breaking out, WGCs are starting to get faded out, and I think that match play might be on the chopping block. I am not sure how much longer we're going to have this, and I've always found it a little bit gimmicky that you're going to try to give us the bracket in the middle of March Madness. I honestly would rather have another Valspar than go into this little match play bracket. Like they're trying to do March Madness,
Yes.
and it don't work for me.
It would only be cool to me if you start with 16 and you've got 16 of the best 20 players in the world to get to start at that point. It always, by the time you get down to like the final 8, there's like one good dude and like 3 no names. I mean, it was cool when like Tiger was backing up the fact that he was the best in the world by also marching through the brackets 1 or 2 times. I mean, that made it cool, but like, yeah, for the most part, I feel like it's lost its luster. So shout out to Ben Griffin and shout out to whoever tweeted at me to let me know, but it's just further letting people know that college basketball is done here in North Carolina when people are trying to make sure I mention the Ben Griffin World Golf Championship updates. All right, I'm going to hit you with some I'm going to try and ask you questions that I believe have only been asked to you already on some other radio appearance or regular thing. I'm going to try and go as most sports radio talky Sweet 16 as I can.
And I will try to answer them as if it was only a conversation that you and I would have in no platform whatsoever with no audience.
Okay. Chip, we saw a lot of upsets, but still some favorites on the board. Give me a team higher than a 4 seed that you think might have a good chance of keeping the Cinderella story going and taking this thing all the way to the Final Four.
What's Cinderella about Princeton? What is an underdog about Princeton? Get all the way out of here with any Ivy League school as some lovable underdog. Come on. That's not it. They might have a 15 beside their name, but that's just because they aren't as good at basketball as the other teams in the tournament. In terms of like life and everywhere outside of the 40 minutes on the court, like that, Princeton is not an underdog, and FAU is not an underdog either. They won 33 games this season. They were 33-3. They've got a 9-player rotation. Like, honestly, you can convince me that Arkansas is more of an underdog and more of like a Cinderella type story than me jumping on board with a 33-win FAU or the Ivy League Princeton team. So come on, this is out of the Sweet 16. More than half of them have met the seed line expectation, aka 4 seed or higher. You've made it all the way into the Sweet 16. You do have the 15, but your overall seed average is pretty much on par. This is not a super upset-filled Cinderella Sweet 16. This is one that, for the most part, comes out about right. You've got a 2 and a 3 in one region. You've got a 2 and a 3 in one region. You've still got 2 of your 1 seeds. I think that this has a lot of good storylines, but we don't have real like Cinderella stories going on right now.
All right, I'm playing Joe Sportscaster here, talking to Chip Patterson of CBS Sports. Chip, 2 1 seeds out, 2 left in. What's the over/under on number of 1 seeds we see in the Final Four? Or let me say, over/under 1.5 1 seeds in the Final Four. How about that? Is that better?
Smart answers both make it. We have to redo our bracket for CBS Sports, and I have Texas over Houston in the Elite 8 of the Midwest Regional, and I admit in my write-up for it that is the truest coin flip that I've got as I see this playing out. What was already a cushy, easy slip and slide for Alabama to go from that top left corner all the way down into the Final Four has only gotten easier as the number 2, the number 3, and the number 4 seeds in that region did not even make it to the second weekend. Like, I am sitting here wringing my hands. I'll be like, all right, well, San Diego State, it held Furman to its lowest point total of the season. It held Charleston to its lowest point total of the season. It held Utah State to its lowest point total of the season. Not acknowledging that we're talking about the SoCon, the CAA, and the Mountain West, like they're going to be able to really be a threat to Alabama. So Alabama's in. Like, you're 1.5. You're going to have the Crimson Tide in the Final Four at Houston. Houston making it there, I think, is difficult. The reason I side with the Longhorns is because they're a little bit deeper, and any injury issues, any foul issues are going to be so much more impactful for the Cougars than they are for the Longhorns. But I admit we could easily see both of these teams end up making it to the Final Four.
All right, and final question for Chip Patterson. This is the second time in like 3 years that we haven't had Kansas, Kentucky, UNC, or Duke in the second weekend of the tournament. And I forget the history, but like that it only happened 1 or 2 times over a 80-year stretch, and now it's happened 2 years out of a 3-year stretch. Is that enough to establish a trend? Or does that say something about, though, the transfer portal has changed college basketball and anybody can, it's not just the blue bloods now? Or is it just more of a quirk since it's only a small sample size?
It is impossible not to acknowledge the coaching changes at Duke and North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
That's like, it's 45 tournaments in a row. You had since the field expanded for 45 tournaments in a row, you had those 4. There was only 2 times, and you're right. And then 2 times in the last 3 tournaments, we have not had that super blue blood of Kansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, and Duke. And again, my explanation here: North Carolina and Duke just lost Hall of Fame coaches, and they are in the process of trying to replace them. 2 things that Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams did very well was make it to the Sweet 16. And on the note of coaching change, I do not think that John Calipari is on a hot seat specifically. There's 39 million reasons that I don't think that he is on a hot seat specifically. But I would argue that, if you're talking about coaching changes, we have looked at the John Calipari tenure and might wonder if that's coming to a close as well. And Kansas, the man had a heart procedure and wasn't even coaching in the first and second round. To me, the answer of the trend is coaching. 2 coaching changes, 1 coaching tenure that has gotten a little bit rocky, and another coach who did not even get an opportunity to be on the sideline because he had stents put in his heart prior to the postseason.
All right, that's fair. All right, you make a good point. Chip Patterson, CBS Sports. When did the game start? 6. I feel like games should be going on all day Thursday. There's no reason we can't start at like 4 o'clock and stretch it out a little bit more. Talk to your bosses about that. All right.
Look, you should be good on not mentioning, because you give it a break. So then you start Thursday with all right, tournament's back, Sweet 16 in action. Here we go. These are going to be your games tonight, because you've only got 4 games Thursday, 4 games Friday, 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday. You have no need to overload it unless you are following a team that has its Wednesday media availability, and then you're teeing up to we'll be hearing from John Shire and so coming up a little bit later. So I don't think that you should feel bad about it. The World Baseball Classic was cool, and Darren Vaught's the man. So no shame in putting that in the first hour.
There we go. Appreciate it, Chip.